All right. Welcome back to another episode of Sup'd Up. I'm Ryan Miller, principal at Alta Mesa. Going to try to channel my best Scotty Gold, who is the pioneer in this podcast, episode 1 with you, Heather. But this is the podcast for our Enterprise Elementary School District staff, where we put you in the hot seat to answer some questions and cast some vision, do some recounting of the school year. This is the end of your second year as superintendent of our district. I would make the argument that probably in the last 4 years has been the most normal of school years that we've had since the pandemic hit in 2020. So a lot of things that we've been able to implement this year, a lot of things we've been able to do, still not without struggles and bumps in the road like every year has, but definitely I think a return to whatever semblance of normality we can have. So you're in the hot seat, Heather. We are going to ask you some questions this morning and kind of allow you to cast some vision on what we're looking forward to in the future and kind of recall this school year and the different things that we were able to accomplish. Starting out, you want to like kind of re-go through the school year and see what things you felt that we were able to accomplish, kind of how the rhythm of the school year went.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with you. Certainly a much better school year this year compared to the last few years. And I would call it a year of recovery and one in which I believe we are gaining traction. So that's exciting. We accomplished a lot this year, even though there were no shortage of challenges, and it was at times still quite difficult. But, you know, we can look at the broad picture of just our facilities in general and the improvements we made to safety at each school and in, you know, a new gymnasium and improvements at each school site. And we'll continue that work into next year. But a lot of those bond projects that are coming to completion has been fun to watch. Certainly in the area of academics, we've seen a really significant jump, and I'm very positive about what our results will look for the end of the year with state testing and all those trimester 3 assessments. But even at mid-year, it looked very much like we are right on target to hit our district goal this year. And, you know, if we can look at that in different ways, what we want is for, you know, we would expect at a minimum that every student makes about a year's growth, right? We really want to break through that ceiling, especially because most of our kids are behind. So even though our results, when you look at them globally, it's hard to condense that into one measure, which is why something like a state test is an easier metric to look at. So even though that only measures the kids that are meeting or exceeding standard, and we know a lot of our kids have made growth from lowest levels to mid-range, and that is a huge celebration as well. But when we get to that 4 and 5% of an increase in kids meeting those benchmarks, we know that we have overall that our students are making more than a year's growth. And really that's our hope. And we, this year, I think, dialed that even more to say that we wanted each and every child to meet their own individual reading goal, knowing that kids started in many, many different places. So academics has been a celebration. Our English language learners, I have to say, we probably have twice as many students who are ready to reclassify, and probably our highest ever. So our English language learners are the group of students who probably struggle the most in academics because they have more challenges. And so when we see them thriving like that, I think it speaks to what's happening overall.
Yeah, so couple things I want to return to there was, you know, the overall, we have this delineation, and I know this has been a conversation at the school sites as well, and where, at least at Alta Mesa, has been a great conversation of delineating that, you know, we have an overall growth goal as a district, you know, a 4 or 5% growth goal. You know, really we're focusing in on that reading and making sure, you know, that kind of the adage of like every kid will learn how to read, right? You know, especially in those primary grade levels. But then you take it to that granular level. And I didn't know if you wanted to also connect that just to where kind of we're moving forward in with some of the things that we're doing next year. And we've been, you know, our district has had Betsy come out from the East Coast and what that looks like as far as moving forward in our district.
Yeah. Well, I think that the fact that we've all made strides in understanding the importance of really keeping our focus around a central goal and ways that we know we're on track, and what are we doing at the classroom level that's going to have the greatest effect, and how can we involve our students in that so that they really own their learning and are monitoring their growth. So that ties into Leader in Me, which is part of Franklin Covey and part of the 4 disciplines of execution and the idea of having a wildly important goal. But at the student level, it covers a couple of things. It covers the social emotional lessons and curriculum for students knowing how to manage themselves, which we all know is critical to their success, and also how they can be focused in on their own academic growth and watch that progress over the year. And we've piloted, as you know, we've piloted a couple of different things. We've had Second Step for a long time, which Second Step has been great, particularly for K-3. But we need something, I think, with a little more meat to it. So next year, we will be fully implementing Leader in Me at the beginning of this school year, August 14th. You know, we all come back at Parsons. And on the 14th, all of our teachers will be trained in the 7 habits of highly effective people, which is really what Leader in Me is based upon. And then on the 15th, we get to do that with all of our classified folks. So I am especially excited about that because I look at it like it's an investment in our people. And I think it's something that will benefit us as individuals as well as an organization and in the work that we're doing for students. And then they'll kind of get also a glimpse of what it looks like in the classroom with Leader in Me. And then again in November, we'll have that whole day for teachers to really dig into that program and how we can use it most effectively with students.
Gotcha. And I know the conversation with Betsy has been with our leadership teams and then as a whole group, where, you know, she uses the examples of some schools she's worked with, but, you know, the emphasis on reading. And a big element of this year that was created, I know a lot of hard work that you did, Jane, as well as Tiffany, has been in the roadmap to reading. Can you talk to us a little bit more? And I know that teachers have gotten the roadmap to reading, but just, you know, kind of take us a little bit through, because I know the work is not just stagnant, it's continuing. Like
Yes.
it's all, I feel like that document's always changing.
Right. Yeah. It's probably the thing I'm most proud of this year because it's kind of evolved out of a need that we've seen. And I hope that it will become more of an everyday part of our work as we go into next year. And you're right, we continue to add to it. One of the pieces we are putting in there is sort of a standards checklist where we can refer to starting the year by looking at that and identifying at our grade levels what are the most essential standards. You know, we want to know those 4 questions, right? What do we want kids to know? How will we know when they've learned it? And then what do we do with kids who didn't get it or with those who already have it, right? So that kind of centers around our instructional plans. So that part will be a good place to start. And then certainly we have all the components that follow the science of reading. But as you know, that doesn't guarantee that we're going to see students really be successful. So we have to pay attention to how much time we allow for that and how well our students are engaged during the time we deliver that instruction. We have to make sure that we're using solid curriculum that is comprehensive. And this is where it can kind of get tricky because sometimes there's really attractive things on teacher pay teacher, but it might just be a singular component. So we really need to make sure we're using a curriculum that is comprehensive and covers all of the skills that students need in a way that builds from year to year. So that vertical piece is really important. And then certainly the effective instruction in using those things. And I feel like that's something we are always looking to improve upon. And I feel like that really is a key to the teacher collaboration time, to allow teachers to have those conversations. How are our kids doing? What's getting in the way? What can we try to break through that? Because we know our kids can learn despite some of those roadblocks that we face.
The idea, though, that you like taking a look at, you mentioned teacher pay teachers and saying, okay, like here's this fun activity versus, and one of the things that I think Betsy talked a lot about was what are the most effective, like I think we do a lot of things in the day and, you have a 6.5 hour day, you have to fill that 6.5 hour day reading instruction, but being very intentional about saying these are the most effective strategies that can make us successful. And so, that idea of a roadmap to reading, but then saying, hey, here are the strategies that we're going to utilize. And here's where you're getting the best, effect for the investment of time is huge for me. Because I think as teachers, sometimes you get in a rhythm and you're like, oh, that's what I've always done. And then how can I kind of check and revise, I heard the quote, what you do, you are good at what you do. Like as a teacher, they're teaching every day, but you're great at what you revise, like, right, you always check revision. Okay, what are we revising and getting better at? So I didn't know if you also want to talk about the blueprint for student success as well.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would just mention about the roadmap is that I think it makes it very clear we have all the resources that you really need to be able to meet our goals and to help kids learn. So hopefully it's an easy place to refer to and to help differentiate between what can we accomplish whole group, because that's our best bang for our buck when it comes to use of time, because we all know small groups are important for certain things, right? But we can't use it all the time because we know that you tend to lose some time when you have too many groups. So I think it will help us delineate that and use that more effectively as well. So yeah, the blueprint for student success, we haven't talked about as much. One of the components on that is the science of reading and implementing that, and that use of effective instructional strategies. And we really want to find those things that work no matter what you're teaching and what grade level you have, that there are more effective strategies that we want to replicate those things that work across all of our classrooms, so every one of our students has a great experience.
Absolutely. So moving on to some of the things that are coming up in the upcoming years, something that has changed that I've, it's been changing kind of, I feel like slowly or over the last couple of years is TK. You want to talk about a little bit of TK and how it's expanding and what kind of our vision in the district of our transitional kinder program? Yeah.
Well, we're seeing those numbers tick up, which is wonderful. And so far, it has been a great experience. I love seeing our TK teachers, and our kids are just getting this head start in learning that is going to really pay off huge benefits, I believe. We ultimately, I believe, will have the same number of TKs as we have kindergarten at each school site. This is the last year where there's kind of, I think the birth date is cut off to turn 5 is April 2nd. But then by the following year, all bets are off. So all 4-year-olds will be coming. And so we want to be prepared to make sure that we have our classrooms ready and we have teachers who are qualified for TK. And of course, they have that full day aid. And that program really is more about exploration and exposure and language play. We're just getting them ready for school and priming those brains to learn so that kindergarten can hit the ground running.
Absolutely. And so with that TK, those grades, do you feel that leads into, just capital expansion projects, like kind of, I know there's different, to kind of plug into when we talked about facilities earlier and expansion. How does that impact just our facilities?
Right. We've done multiple campus visits to try to, make sure we have a good plan for that. And so one of the first things we're doing is building at Lassen View 3 classrooms in a new building. So we'll be bringing in, they're not portables, they're modular, and they'll have their own little playground. Because the requirements actually for anything new that you build for TK, those classrooms are pretty large. They need to have a bathroom, and that's appropriate for the age level. So there are other school sites where we may be adding as well. But for now, there is adequate space at most of our campuses already. And, we may have to refurbish those rooms a little so that they're welcoming for our new families. But we should be in good shape.
Yeah. Since we're on the subject of facilities, I remember as an assistant principal, Measure E and the bond that we had. And I feel like we're kind of I don't know if we're in phase 3, phase 4, but we're kind of in the phases of, the initial phase of that was, I think, a lot of revamping of like air conditioning units and things like that. But we're kind of in the heart of where that bond measure from 4 or 5 years ago was, and the facilities and the things that we've actually been able to accomplish in the district. Do you want to talk a little bit about what the projects we have that are completing this year, the ones that are going to start up, here coming in the next year?
Yeah. So for Measure E, about a year ago, we sold off the remainder of those bonds, and then you have 3 years to use that. So part of that is going toward the expansion over at Boulder Creek, where they added on the bathrooms, junior high bathrooms there, and enclosed the front lobby of their gym, which will be really great. At Parsons, there was the stage added into their gymnasium, into their existing building, and then Mistletoe will have their new gym that was really meant to have each junior high campus to have access to a gymnasium. And of course, that's our second largest school site. So I know they will welcome that space, and 2 new classrooms that came along with that. And that's about ready to be used. We've also used some of those funds for, it's not as exciting to talk about, but we have upgraded our HVAC systems, heating and air, all across campus.
I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
I think it's exciting right now because for those who don't know, when we do these podcasts, we have to unplug the air conditioning, and it's May. And so if you see us sweating, it's not because I'm a hard-hitting interviewer. It is because it is hot in here, and we don't have the air conditioning on. So no, I think HVAC is I think it's really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you've noticed some of our playgrounds that are getting a huge makeover. And I love that because, that's something that kids benefit from and are excited about themselves. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll speak as well. The offices have been really nice. The office remodel at Lassen View and at Alta Mesa has been really nice to be able to have better spaces for parents. And I think it increases, and you talked about it earlier, the increased security of our campuses has been, a subject of conversation. Talking about security, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of this year that has been something that we've emphasized, obviously with things that have happened around the nation? How has safety and security been a part of your vision moving forward?
Yeah. Well, the final 2 office remodels that occurred, really that was with the intent to make sure that all visitors came through the office. So there was a single point of entry. And then, as the year was underway, we were like, you know what, let's take that one step further. And we did the buzzard entries so that people can't just walk in without being checked out to some degree first. And we all have our Raptor systems for visitors. We increased the number of cameras that are on our campus. We're still in the process of getting vape detectors on our junior high campuses. And then they'll be participating in TUPE, which is a tobacco prevention grant, next year as well. And trying to think what else. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but next year we are adding a couple other things like a new safety notification system. It's called Catapult. And so we have ongoing. Yep. And we did some facility threat assessment
that's where
through the FBI actually out of Sacramento. And so we've done one school, and we have plans to do, just make our way around the district. And the exciting thing is we have really, really good grades. Yeah. They noticed some things we didn't, like, in certain areas there's a little gap in, in the fencing or something like that. So things that we were able to remedy pretty quickly.
For sure. And speaking about safety, so there's obviously the physical safety, but then there's also, we talk about making our campuses safe and welcoming environments. And so some of the social emotional things that we have been able to progress in our district from where we were, 6-7 years ago to now. Do you want to talk about kind of just the implementation of those things and what's kind of coming down the pike?
Yeah. Well, I know we all are very grateful to have counselors on each of our school sites, even though I know Shasta Meadows is currently without one, but that will change. Most of our school sites have some sort of wellness room. And then our behavior techs, that's a fairly new thing as well in the past few years. We've had Elevate Youth Solutions come as a pilot at some of our schools this year. And what they do, they're trained behaviorists. They work in small groups with students that have been identified with parent permission, and they meet with them once a week. We'll be expanding that to every school site next year, so everybody has that opportunity. It's just another level of intervention support. We will also be all participating in the California Community Schools program. I'm forgetting a word in there somewhere, but that
Partnership.
partnership program, thank you, which means each school site has a community connector. And that is something we have known would be great to have, but it's also an expense. So this grant will allow us to do that because they're actually paid for through the county. And their job is really to be a liaison between families and services in the community. We know our families have many needs, and it can be overwhelming for a counselor and administrator to try to reach out to those community services. So that person, I think, will
I
make
can
a
give a
huge
testimony.
difference.
We have had ours for probably the full last trimester, and it's been amazing because, like you said, as a principal, your focus is on about 1,000 different areas, and you have your counselor focusing on, really creating those direct contact with students, and then checking in with parents. But on the other side, that follow through, that checking back in, kind of creating that case manager for the family side of it, not just what's happening at the school, has been really amazing. And we have a great community connector at our school, and that's what she's just scheduling meetings with families. Hey, what's the advance this week? What do we do this week? What do we need to do? What community resources do you need? And that's really, I think, for our families, a huge thing to create that parent-school partnership, just continuing that partnership plan. Okay, so last we'll kind of come around to a couple different areas. So parent engagement. This year, we parent education, different things that we're doing within the community. What are you looking forward to? You talked about catapults as one of the things that we're moving to. What are things with parent engagement that staff can expect?
Yeah. Well, this is the first year we had our studio ready. Yeah. So that has been a good way for us to be able to regularly send communication out to parents. We're looking at potentially piloting Parent Square, which is would replace School Messenger, but it's something that, from what we have heard, other schools that use it, their parents love it because it's easy to use. The idea would be we could potentially have a single platform for teachers and school sites and the district to use that would hopefully eliminate some of those barriers for parents, make it easier for them to know what to look for so that we're not some people doing Bloom, some Remind, some School Messenger. But we're in the exploration stage of that. We will certainly continue parent education courses and, family nights. This summer, we actually are going to, for the first time, give every student access to a voucher to sign up for Reading Recreation Camp or to get an aquatic center pass. So that will be free. And I think our families are going to be excited about that. And then we'll be sending home backpacks for TK through 3 so that they've got those summer Bridges activity books and things to read and all of those things that we hope will keep them learning a little bit over the summertime.
Okay. All right. Final and last question.
Okay.
Cast a vision for next year. You kind of touched on a little bit on the start of the year, but cast a vision. What can staff and employees kind of expect as we go into the 23-24 school year?
Okay. Well, I think we go deeper with some of the things that we've been not experimenting with, but getting a start on. So we will certainly keep our focus around our wildly important goals. I think that we will make some revisions to our collaboration process just based on the fact that we've gotten feedback from teachers about things that they like and they don't like, and we want to make sure it works for teachers. That there's so much value in collaboration, I believe, in making things better. We will certainly have Leader in Me, which I think is going to help our kids really be able to accelerate their own growth. And that whole idea that every one of us in some fashion is a leader, and we want to bring out the best, not only in our employees, but in our students. So we want to see that certainly that academic piece continue to rise. I really believe we can be the leaders in seeing improvement in literacy. It's just so critical, and that doesn't mean that math isn't, but it is the foundational skill that our kids need, and that they need to know how to cooperate with each other. And some of them are lacking in those skills. We know that. So we want to address that piece as well and continue to help them know how to communicate their needs and manage themselves.
Okay. Well, we're going into summer. I think a great time for rest and relaxation, and then also a time just to be able to kind of get back to baseline and prepare for the upcoming school year. Any final thoughts going into summer that you want teachers to think about?
Yeah. Well, we will have a lot of opportunities if you are interested in continuing your own professional learning, and we're happy to pay you to do those things. So look for that. But more importantly, perhaps, is find those things that really bring you joy and laugh and rest. And I know I'm looking forward to being able to do that a little bit too, so that we come back refreshed and ready to go.
All right. Thank you, Heather, for joining us. I want to wish everybody a wonderful summer, and we'll see you in the 23-24 school year.